Hi, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on developing a prosperity mindset. We're really excited that you're here today. I'm sure some of you have read what I wrote in the email that Louise used to say that it was easier for her to do a course on sexuality than on prosperity because people would get their buttons really pushed and really get stuck on prosperity. So it's great that you're here today and learn a little bit more. And we're going to ask you to just be open to the possibilities. My name is Dr. Patricia Crane. I studied personally with Louise. You're going to hear more about that in a little while. And I'd like to introduce our amazing assistant and co-trainer, Christy Dixon.
Hello there.
Okay, so we're excited to get started. How about if you put in the chat where you're from? Okay, I've got this. Everyone, yeah. Can you put in the chat where you're from? And the other place you can put it is in the Q&A if you'd like to do that. I can see where it says messages to everyone. Okay. And I know we had a lot of people sign up from other countries where this time is not quite as good as it was for some of you. Okay, oh, someone from India. I know it's late there. And from Michigan, that's great. All right, welcome. I know we have a number of other people on here from other places. And so now it does say that chat is disabled, and I don't know why because I have clicked everything to turn it on. So let me see. Okay. Here we go. And let me do this one more time. Okay, check it again. Wisconsin, California. Okay, we're in California. I'm in Lake Arrowhead where it is sunny today after a snowstorm last week. Okay, we've got Brazil, we've got Canada, San Francisco, Thousand Oaks. All right, that's close. It's working now. That's great. Okay, well, welcome everybody. We're excited that you're here. And it's wonderful that, as usual, we have an international group. So fantastic. And Ireland as well. Wonderful. Rick and I have been to Ireland and Canada and Brazil, the three other countries on here at this
And
point,
India.
and India, and we've loved them all. It has been just a great gift with Louise's work to be able to take this work and her beautiful philosophy to so many countries. So that's great. All right, wonderful. Welcome everyone, and I'm going to go ahead and get the start. Yes, you will get a recording. Absolutely, we'll be sending that out afterwards. Okay, all right. So let me get the chat started. The webinar started with our PowerPoint. And again, welcome to our Developing a Prosperity Mindset. And we truly ask you to just be open. I need to put us on a little different, okay, Christy, and show the two of us. Oh, Christy. You know what? It's not showing me. Okay. Let's see. Christy, I have to go back to gallery view, so I'm going to take that down for just a minute, okay? Yeah. And there we go. To speaker view. Okay, great. Now I got that. Okay. Alrighty. So next, Christy.
Distraction free. So we are really looking for you guys to be here and be present with us. So please put away your phones and your other work and be here and be distraction free with us.
Yeah, because we know how many distractions there are these days. So a little bit more about who we are. My husband and I, our company is Heart Inspired Presentations. I'm the president, Rick is vice president, and Christy is our COO. And we created this in 2000 really from the work and also to just really demonstrate that our work is from the heart. And Louise's philosophy, everything is really heart-based and loving yourself is the foundation. Long story, but we also have a unique licensing agreement with Hay House that was approved by Louise to offer the training programs. Because when Louise first approved the program, it was actually with a hug and a handshake. And as time went on, and this was in 1995, so this is actually the 30th year for the trainings. We now have trainees doing workshops and coaching in 70 countries. And so as time on, though, it was really important to have something a little more official. And we began with Hay House to have a unique licensing agreement, which allows you, those who come to the training, to use all the copyrighted materials and also the Heal Your Life trademark, which is now trademarked worldwide. So I trained personally with Louise for a number of years. And it was after she was on the Oprah Winfrey Show, which most of you probably know was pretty important in her life because the You Can Heal Your Life book went to bestseller list. And so she asked myself out because Hay House had gotten so busy to start leading her signature 2-day workshop, Love Yourself, Heal Your Life. And of course, we were thrilled. And Hay House began sending us out to the places that were asking for that workshop because that's really how it started. One of the places I went was the UK, and I loved it over there. I'd been there actually as a student in many years before that. And the students there said, you know, this workshop has changed our lives so much over and above the book. Can you do a training program? So I called Louise when I got home and said, Louise, people want a training program. And she said, great, put it together, come down to my house for the weekend and we'll create the curriculum. So that was, again, a little over 30 years ago. Some of the curriculum has changed, but the basics are still there because Louise's work is timeless. And that's because her book has been out in, let's see, 55 million copies and translated into 35 languages. It's really timeless and it appeals to people of all cultures and ways of life because we all have the same issues. So that's just briefly of my background with Louise. There's more on our YouTube channel, but for right now, I'll turn it over to Christy Dixon.
Let's see. Okay, so please stay on and stay with us till the end because we are going to have some great bonuses for you guys to talk about. And we look forward to seeing you all the way till the end.
Okay. So our goals for today are to help you identify some of your limiting prosperity beliefs, especially show you how unconscious beliefs affect you. And I've got a great story about that. Discover the 4 areas of money mastery, and then learn how Louise's techniques can transform your money story. And some of you on the group can probably already have some idea about that. Maybe you've been using them already, which is great. And again, Christy's already mentioned the bonus, and I don't know if you've seen this, but I have heard from several sources, including one well-known actor, that 90% of life is showing up. So it's wonderful that you showed up today and can be with us until the end so you can hear all about the bonus.
That's right.
Now, let's go and think about things from your childhood, right? Did you hear any of these when you were growing up? Money doesn't grow on trees. Rich people aren't nice. Money is the root of all evil. And there's never enough. Money can't buy happiness. Okay, so I'm going to come down now and go back to our webinar and just see if you could put in the chat some of the things that maybe you heard growing up. What did you hear growing up about prosperity? Anything?
I know I heard a lot of things about prosperity growing up. I heard there was never enough. I heard we don't have any money, but then watch my parents spend it.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Rich people are bad. Ooh, okay.
Mm.
Yeah. And if you get money, then you're going to be bad, right? Never enough. Money is evil. Can't afford that. Yep. All these things that, we were taught growing up. And so actually the quote in the Bible is the root of all evil is not money, but it's the desire for money. It's the greed for money. Okay. So it's not that money itself is evil, it's the greed for it. Okay. Oh, we have some great great posts here. Parents never said there wasn't enough, but convinced us we didn't need it. Okay. That's a different one. That's a good one. For this afford my life with borrowed money. Now I can't get out of debt. Okay, well, we're going to show you some of the techniques that can help you get out of debt. And yes, another one is how have to work hard for money. And also, I saw a program I was watching the other day, a series on Netflix or one of those, I can't remember which one, and it was a group of young people, and they were out having a drink, and they had a drink to having a job just so you can have some money. And none of them liked their jobs. So they were all pretty depressed about that. But here they were, saying, well, at least I have a job. So I guess we could say that as well. At least I have a job. But that's not what we want, right? We want to have something that we can work at that we love, that we love.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And you didn't have enough food to eat. Okay, that's a pretty serious one. That's difficult. So then you really get a feeling of there's never enough. Okay, so let me go back to our screen share. And here we go. And I'm gonna just set it up. It's gonna be set up the way it is right now, I guess. Got a little bit of an issue here with the slideshow. Current slide. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we heard all those things growing up. So of course they get embedded, right, in that unconscious mind. So I'm going to talk to you about the unconscious mind and how it works to sabotage you. But here's a piece of that. And that is that there's an unconscious mind, subconscious, and conscious mind. Now, conscious mind, you're engaged right now with your conscious mind. But when I asked you to come up with some of the ideas you grew up with, you did come up with some that were actually in your subconscious mind because you had access to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm going to share with you is a great story about what happened with me way back when I was going to college, where I really discovered later using Louise's work how the unconscious mind works. So I went to college in a cold place near Chicago where we had a lot of snow. And my mom would take me shopping every year before I went back to college to get some new clothes. And this one time we went, and she had a budget. She had a very, strict budget. And this one time we went and I tried on this coat that was on sale, but it was still beyond our usual budget. And I guess my mom looked at my face and could see how much I love that coat. So she bought it for me. And of course, this isn't me. I was looking for a coat that looked a lot like it, and this was the closest I could get. It was a wonderful, warm colored, camel colored. Oh, it was so wonderful. So what happened is we got the coat. I got ready to go back to college. I met some friends at the airport, and we got a taxi to take ourselves to the college. And the taxi was pretty packed because we all had luggage. And I put my raincoat and this beautiful new coat up behind me when we got into the taxi. Now you may know what was coming. And that was that we all piled out of the car, busy, 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 getting to our dorms and everything. I forgot the coats. And I got to the room and I started calling the taxis and saying, does anybody, I couldn't remember exactly what taxi. No, no, no. Well, here's how I felt. How could I be so stupid? I was angry at myself. I felt guilty. It was really a bad, bad moment. Now, I have to tell you, quite honestly, I never shared with my mom that I lost the coat because when I went home for the summer, we could all leave a big trunk with our things in the basement at the school. So supposedly I'd left the coat in that trunk. But here's how I felt for years. And then I discovered Louise's work, and this is what I discovered. The belief I had growing up was you can have nice things, but you can't really have what you want because it's too expensive. So mom was buying me the look-alike designer clothes. Maybe some of you have had that experience as well. But I couldn't have the designer clothes that a lot of my friends had because it was too expensive. Now, at the conscious level and even the subconscious level, I kind of knew that. But that belief was so deep within me that I lost this beautiful coat that was the nicest thing I wanted before I even wore it. So that was the beginning for me of a real aha about how the unconscious works and how many beliefs I had in there that were like that. And Christy, I'm wondering if you have an example like that to share as well, or just some more about your growing up and what unconscious stuff there was.
Well, it's so funny because I actually have a taxi story just like that.
Mm,
And I was in London with my parents, and I had the same kind of thing. My mom always bought everything on sale to pay full price for something. And especially like if it was handmade or something, you weren't going to do that. But I was working and I was making my own money. And we went into this shop where it was a person who did her own hats. And I paid like 75 pounds for a hat. Really beautiful orange hat. It was winter in London, so I didn't have anything like this. And it was just gorgeous. And I did wear it and I took it off in the taxi. And guess where I left it? But it's that same thing because my mom, I remember her, she was with me, being like, well, you could get a hat someplace else. You could get a hat less expensive. You don't really need a hat like that that's been handmade. And then I went and lost it. And I was so sad. But yeah, you're right. And then learning about Louise's work, it really helps to notice when those beliefs crop up
mhm.
so that you don't leave your stuff behind in a taxi.
Okay, we won't do that next time.
Right?
So some of you may have been on our previous webinar on, negative thoughts and how these work. And I did use the same cycle in that one. So it's important to really understand that one. And the first part is your experiences and what you've heard mainly in childhood. Some of it can be certainly in adulthood as well, but mainly in childhood. Your experience in childhood about prosperity or anything else, really. We're talking about more than prosperity, money today we are, but Louise also talked about love and joy and time, and that's part of an abundant life. But you have an impression, you have a thought about it, like when my mom would say, we can't afford it, or this is what we need to get. I had a thought there that, okay, you can never have what you really want. There was some depression there, some emotion, some disappointment, right? That becomes the belief that's not only in the subconscious mind, but the unconscious mind. And then it goes into my behavior, which was losing that coat before I even wore it. But I can really give you many more examples of that kind of thing before I found Louise's work. And so what we want to do is really begin to change the thoughts, develop new emotions and beliefs, and that's going to change our experience and also our behavior. Now, I want you to have just kind of a metaphor here, an image. Imagine that your mind is like multiple train tracks. And your mind is going down all these train tracks in different ways all day long, right? Um, it's been said we have 75,000 thoughts a day, and 60,000 of those are the same ones we had yesterday and the day before. And then we wonder why our lives don't change. So even though we're talking about prosperity today, you can think about, do you have negative thoughts about relationships, about your career, about your health? I mean, that's really important. And so these train tracks are in there. And what we want to do is begin to change how those things go along.
So we have all of these thoughts in a day. And what we often don't think is that we can choose whether these thoughts are going to be positive or negative. And we often just kind of get stuck. And I love the train track metaphor because it's like we're stuck on that same track and we just keep riding that same track. And we can actually choose to switch the track over. And we can take that negative thinking and turn it into positive thinking. And it really does change things in your life because it's a matter of perspective. We hear it all the time. We have all of these analogies about it, the glass half full, the glass half empty. You can choose the way that those train track of thoughts are going. You can choose their direction. And by doing that, you will change your life. And a little bit later, I'm going to tell you how I changed mine with prosperity, even though nothing changed with how much money was coming into the house.
Mhm. Great.
And so that brings us to that good news. We're going to start talking about how you can make those changes. Let's start talking about that.
Absolutely. That is the good news. The techniques from Louise give us the tools to welcome more prosperity. And I'm going to ask you right in this moment, just where you are right now, to open up your arms and say, I am willing to welcome more prosperity. Just open your arms, say, I am willing to
I am
welcome
willing to welcome more
more
prosperity.
prosperity. Okay.
Yes.
So the first part, and you've also already heard something about that, is really to become more aware. Become more aware of your thoughts and your feelings. You know, somebody said in the chat, they were taught that rich people are bad. So what happens when you see a wealthy person? Do you feel like, oh, that person is bad, because you're really reflecting that back to yourself, that you would be bad if you had wealth, right? And so you need to change that in terms of the thoughts and the feelings and say, well, isn't it wonderful this person has, been successful in their lives, and I'm willing to be more successful as well. So that you're really more aware of those thoughts and that you could be changing them right on the spot. And we're going to, of course, talk more about affirmations in a few minutes and how you could really practice with those. But I think this is an important one to just be aware of, because rich people aren't bad. Rich people just are. And what I've heard, the saying I've heard is that wealth doesn't necessarily change you, it makes more of who you are. And so if you're not very a nice person to begin with and you get wealthy, you're probably not going to be a very nice person going on. But if you are, then you're probably going to share more of your wealth with people and, be able to help people in your community, which to Rick and I know is very important that we share, and help groups, nonprofit groups in our community. So I love that saying because I think it's really true. And it's just important, again, to get really aware of your thoughts and feelings. So an affirmation you could have right now is, I am absolutely aware of my thoughts and feelings about prosperity, and anything else you want to add in, maybe your relationships or your health, so that I can focus on the positive. Okay, now we're going to go on right now to a very important question that we ask in our prosperity workshops that you need to think about.
Who would you betray if you were financially successful? Think about that question. It's not one that we've been taught to think about very much when it comes to prosperity and abundance, but it's a really important question. And often it's an authority figure. Often that's your parents, as in you would be betraying their values, their financial system, whatever it is, if you became more financially successful than them. So stop for a second and just ask yourself, who would I be betraying if I were financially successful?
Mhm. Yeah. And very often in the workshops, when we ask that question, it is your parents. Not necessarily, but often it is. And I have to tell you that at the point where I went beyond what my dad was making at the end of his life, he actually passed away, unfortunately, before he retired. And I suddenly realized that I was feeling some anxiety going beyond what he had earned, even though it's many years later. And, the whole economy has changed. But fortunately, I became aware of what was going on. So while we want to acknowledge our parents, and especially if, they had a tough time, growing up and had some tough financial times with us. I know my husband, Rick, his mom was a single mom, and she really had some tough times financially. And that had affected him, and he had to make a lot of changes in his willingness to be prosperous. So just think about that question. We're going to stop the Q&A or the PowerPoint in a little bit and just allow you to ask some questions. I'm just going to go on to some additional things right now so that you have some more to think about, and then we can answer some questions. So the 4 areas of money mastery. I asked on one of the emails, do you know the 4 areas of money mastery? And they're really mental, emotional, practical, and spiritual, those 4, right? And each one of them has its own specific kinds of things. I also call them money matters. So money mastery, money matters. But there are these 4 areas that are really critical. And we're going to ask you to take kind of a self-assessment as we go through these without any judgment. This is just information for you from where you might need to do a few things to improve your financial prosperity.
Okay, so mentally, what do you think of when you start thinking about money? Do you dream of winning the lottery and that's going to solve all of your financial woes? Do you think I could manage my money better? Are you hard on yourself? Are you in shame? Are you in guilt? Or are you one of those people who won't even go and look at your checking account? I don't even like thinking about my finances. I am just going to close my eyes and hope for the best,
Yeah.
you
That's
know? And this is what we're talking about when we're talking about awareness. You've got to start noticing when you are mentally making negative thoughts
right.
about your prosperity. And then you're going to start to learn to turn those negative thoughts around because very few people win the lottery. And when we try to manage, like control, it often just slips right through us because we're having so much negative thoughts and not control. And then when you ignore it completely, well, nothing good can happen because you don't even know what's going on.
Well, and
So we're
Christy,
going to be thinking about being aware.
that's called head in the sand,
Yes.
being an ostrich.
Being an ostrich, exactly. Yeah.
Now, I want you to also notice that we said, use the word could. I could manage my money better, because most of you may know that Louise says the word should is not a good word. It's one to get out of your vocabulary because it means you were bad, you are bad, or you're going to be bad or wrong.
Mhm.
So we want to say, I could manage my money better, right?
Yep. Don't should on yourself.
And then emotionally, do you feel guilty about how you have used money up until now? Maybe overspend it on credit cards or something like that. Do you have fears about not having enough? Several of you mentioned that kind of thing in the chat, so that's a pretty usual fear to have. Are you angry that wealthy people have so much? And we've really touched on that already as well. That instead of being angry, you want to acknowledge that they've done something to improve their, financial prosperity, and you can do the same. I also want to mention, we're talking more about Louise's philosophy, but Wayne Dyer, many of you may know who Wayne is, and he was at all the I Can Do It conferences, had lots of books and things with Hay House, was a good friend of Louise's. And he would talk about prosperity and say, look, it's really an attitude that you have to adopt about having prosperity and being okay, knowing that you deserve it. But he also said, if you find a penny on the pavement or something, instead of saying, oh, that's just a penny, say, hey, it's a penny. So for Wayne, it was like acknowledge whatever is coming your way in terms of additional prosperity when you start doing these affirmations.
Okay, so practical matters. This is really about taking that awareness now and turning it into something practical. And so you start telling yourself, I pay my bills on time. That is an affirmation that really makes a difference. When you start to believe that, you will start to pay your bills on time. I balance my checkbook monthly. You know, things are a little bit different now. You can do it daily because you can get online, but you don't want to overdo it, right? But you are comfortable balancing your checkbook. You have a good credit score. These are the practical things that you can do your affirmations around. And let me explain to you what how this really changed for me, because I was like, okay, but I'm not making any more money. My husband and I, we were in what we were doing. We weren't making any more money. I was like, how is it going to make a difference? But you know what I did? First of all, I went through and I set up all of my bills to be paid automatically, which was a very scary thing for me because I would play what I called the magic money man. And I would just make sure that I had the money, or maybe I'd pay a few days late so that I could, make sure I had the money for groceries or whatever. And I was constantly moving around. So, one of the things I did on faith was set up all of my bills to be paid automatically so that they were paid on time. That is, I pay my bills on time. And guess what? Ever since then, they have stayed being paid automatically, and they have all been paid on time. And I can still buy groceries, and everything is still going forward. So that fear was my fear. It was actually okay. The other thing that I really did was every time I found myself in fear, which was often because I grew up with there is not quite enough money. And every month at the end of the month, we'd be negative, and my mother would be in hysterics, and my father would be like, it's fine, just wait till the next paycheck comes in. And there'd be all this drama around it. And I started saying every time I felt that fear, there's not enough, there's not enough, there's almost enough. I can see the light. I would say there's more than enough. I would stop it. And again, think of that train track, because that's how I thought of it. I stopped it in its tracks. And I said, there's more than enough. There's more than enough. And not once since then. And that was, oh gosh, probably 10 years ago, 7 years ago. We have not once paid an overdraft fee. Not once. And we actually make a little bit less money now because my husband's retired and we don't have his overtime than we did when I started doing that. So changing your mindset on these practical matters really, really makes a difference.
And then on to the spiritual matters. I know that spirit is my ultimate source. And one of the things I love that Louise said as well is that the general economy is not your economy. And I think that's really believing that spirit is your ultimate source. Now, caution here, big caution. That doesn't mean that you just go out and use your credit cards all the time and say, oh, spirit's going to pay for this because spirit is my ultimate source. It's still important for you to be responsible with your finances, right? And actually, when you are more responsible, you feel better about yourself. You're not feeling guilty. And that also expands your prosperity. I trust all my needs are met. And it can be in very unexpected ways. We've got an affirmation in the affirmations we're going to talk about later that is unexpected income is always coming my way. And using that affirmation, Christy and I and the people that we've trained, they have gotten so many experiences just like that, that their needs are actually being met when they trust. And then the final one on here, and again, in one of our courses on money and consciousness, we have many more than these, but we wanted to just give you a flavor of some things that you could think about with these different 4 areas about how you're doing with them. And again, we don't want you to feel bad or guilty or anything. If some of them you really need to work on, that's okay. You're here on this webinar to learn that. And then I forgive myself for past money issues. And I know for myself, I really did need to forgive myself for some of the spending that I'd done, that it was pretty unwise. And I'm going to talk a little more about forgiveness as we go along here, because that is really a very critical area for opening yourself up to prosperity. So I'm going to stop the share for right now and just see what we've got. Okay, some of the things in here, that's exactly why I should be very, very millionaire. And I'm assuming that you're saying that because you would be very giving. So that's wonderful. When I win the lottery, I have fewer problems. And actually, you know what? That's not true, because so many people who've won the lottery have either lost it fairly quickly because they didn't have a prosperity consciousness, or they found out they still had some of the same problems, you know. I'll share a story with someone that I worked with as a coach, and she had won either 400,000 or 500,000 in a lottery and ended up getting scammed and losing all of that money within about 3 or 4 months. And her kids were so angry with her because they felt like that was their inheritance, which is a whole nother issue. But that was really an unfortunate thing. And so, she uncovered that her belief had been all about, I'll never be able to keep the money I get.
Mhm.
And I know my husband had that issue as well from his mom because he had found a $20 bill when he had a paper route when he was young. And when he got home, his mom's a single mom and doesn't have much money. She goes, "Oh, $20, that's great. That'll help me with the groceries." So his belief for a long time was, when I get money, it'll be taken away, right? Okay, let's look at our Q&A here. Um, Anybody have any questions you want to ask us at this point? You can put it either in the chat or in the Q&A, whichever one, if you do have a question. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions.
Patricia,
Hmm?
what do you say to people who say, okay, I have everything I need. How do I, what if I'm not making it every month? Like,
Mhm.
how do you explain to people that even when you are struggling, that these techniques are working?
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think the first thing is to really get into a mode of trust and then doing the affirmations, being more aware, like you were talking about, that, when you set up all those automatic payments, there was just a commitment there that you were going to be able to pay your bills on time.
Mhm.
And I think what happens when you are struggling financially is that you go into fear.
Yeah.
And as soon as you go into fear, the solutions are blocked, right?
Yeah.
They're absolutely blocked. And I'll tell you, one of my experiences after I had bought my condo and some things had shifted in the work I was doing at a particular place, then all of a sudden I didn't have enough money in my account to pay for the next payment on my condo. And so I really addressed that. And I said, okay, what is the worst that could happen? And that's not a bad question to ask. It sounds like it might be. But I thought, if the worst happened and I couldn't keep the condo, I would be okay. And I spent some more time in meditation and just really being in trust as much as I could in my affirmations. And suddenly I had several more clients that I hadn't expected. So there's always a way that the prosperity can come to you. What we
Mhm.
try to do, we'll get to this more with the affirmations, is we try to figure it out. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
going to figure out how it happens, right?
There goes all those thoughts again.
What happens is we can't figure it out. And that's where spirit comes in, is to be able to trust. So let's go on back to the share and the next
Thank
one.
you so much, Patricia. That was really beautifully said.
Thank you. Okay, so, and of course, the bottom line for Louise's philosophy is love yourself.
Mhm.
Love yourself now, however you've been in the past with prosperity. Just be willing to love yourself in every area of your life. And, we have the 12 ways to love yourself that we've sent out previously to probably most of you on here. It's great to go and review those every once in a while and just really know that it's okay to love yourself. And the next one, and this is one of the principles in Louise's work, there's enough for everybody. Sometimes we think, oh, okay, if I have more money, other people are going to have less. Well, it's not true. I mean, there's billions of dollars on the planet, and you're not taking away from anyone else if you have enough.
Yeah, it's really important to remember that.
Mhm.
Just because somebody else has more than you or less than you, when you're in comparison, you can't get comfortable. There is enough for everybody. Stop comparing what you have versus what others have.
Right. Yeah. And again, what you need to give up is feeling guilty about the past, being able to forgive yourself, and shitting on yourself. I should have done this. I should have done that. Nope. It's right now.
Oh,
What's
should have
happening?
spent the money this way, should have invested, should stop. You've got to stop. It is not helping. It has at any time actually put more money back into your bank account by doing that.
No.
Absolutely not. All it does is put a big black cloud over your head. You've got to give up on that. And this is my big one. Start to feel some gratitude. For many of us, for most of us, we are lucky enough to be able to look around and feel grateful. There is so much in our lives. Grateful for our families, grateful for the love in our life. You may not love your job, but remember to be grateful to it because it's what puts food on the table. It's what puts a roof over your head. And you can always do what Louise would say. I love my job. I'm grateful for it. And I'm excited to accept a new and better job. I love my job. And I say goodbye to it when the time is right and I'm ready to accept a new and better job. But if you're sitting there in resentment and anger and you're not grateful for what it's providing, it's so much harder to get out. It's like being drug into quicksand. But when you can say, I am so grateful. I'm grateful for this apartment. It's not the apartment of my dreams, okay. But I am so grateful that I'm in a safe place, that I can lock my door at night and sleep. I am grateful for the food on my table. Stay in gratitude, and you will notice big changes in your life. And remember, I'm going to say this in the I and think about this for yourself. I was born to enjoy life. I affirm that I am now willing to open to the abundance and prosperity that are available everywhere. In doing so, I notice all the blessings that are flowing through my days.
So it is.
And so it
So
is.
okay, now we're getting to a really important one that actually is not a part of many prosperity workshops, but I know for a fact how important the forgiveness is. The forgiveness for yourself for not using money well, forgiveness for others who may have betrayed you, not paid you back, or so. Forgiveness for your parents, for not teaching you important lessons about prosperity. And I know when I started doing the forgiveness work around prosperity, there were a number of people in my life that owed me money for one reason or another. Now, I didn't go looking for it. I didn't go asking for it, but I actually got 2 checks from some of those people after I'd started doing the prosperity work that I hadn't even asked them for. But somewhere in that spiritual energetic, they felt that. And I was just shocked. I got these 2 checks in the mail from 2 different people. So I can't guarantee that that will happen for you if someone's betrayed you or someone owes you money. But we do know that forgiveness frees us from the past. So I'm going to ask you just where you are right now to just take a few deep, easy breaths, just allowing your body to relax. And think of someone that you need to forgive. Again, it could be your parents, could be yourself, it could be others who betrayed you financially in some way, right? And just be willing to forgive. And this may be a first step. It's like they call it peeling the onion. I like to say peeling the artichoke, because what happens when you peel the leaves of the artichoke, you get to the heart, right? So that's what we want. We want to get to the heart. And perhaps after we get off this webinar, or you get off this webinar, if you have some time, you can do a little journaling about your prosperity and about anyone that you might need to forgive. It's okay to forgive. It frees you from the past, and it will just give you a whole new opening for prosperity in your life. Okay. Now on to one of our favorite topics, of course. Louise Hay has been called the Queen of Affirmations, and why do affirmations work? Well, affirmations work not just because you're doing them on the mental level, but because you are connecting with your divine source. You're connecting with that spiritual energy that's in and through all of us. And when people ask Christy and I and any of our other trainees that we've, worked with over the time, well, how can you prove that affirmations work? Well, there's actually a lot of proof these days, but I'm going to
There
give
is.
you just one little quick thing to think about. You probably all have the experience whether you think about someone that you haven't seen in a long time, wonder how are they doing, and all of a sudden they call you on the phone or you see them in the grocery store or something like that. That was an affirmation that went out into the spiritual energy, into the divine intelligence, and that person heard it and contacted you. And so that's really what I say you can look at and say, yeah, these things really do work. And it's the same with all of the affirmations that we do. In fact, that was actually my next slide. Affirmations work because they align you with a power greater than yourself. They actually change the synapses in your brain as well. And we talked about that a lot on that previous webinar about changing your negative thoughts. But there's actually proof with that. And one of the authors, Jim Quick with Hay House, talks a lot about that in his YouTube channel and also in his books. So just remember that affirmations do work because you're aligning yourself with that power greater than yourself. And plus you're changing the synapses in your brain. So your brain is more likely to think those prosperity thoughts, right, Christy?
Absolutely. That is really true. So say to yourself, I bless my income with love and watch it grow. When you guys get off of this webinar, write down your affirmations. Look and see where your blocks are. Take a few minutes to journal and think to yourself, I bless my income with love and I watch it grow.
Absolutely. And here we have just a number of affirmations that we're going to go through. One of them that's not on here that is really important that we work with a lot, and I actually sent out an email that many of you may have seen probably a couple of weeks ago, and it's about deservability. Most of us weren't taught that we deserve to have a wonderful life with financial abundance, with, loving relationships, with positive, good health, and a wonderful career that we love. We were taught that we were limited in a lot of ways. And a few weeks ago, I sent out Louise's deservability visualization. And it's interesting because she doesn't talk about that really in her book, You Can Heal Your Life, but it is at the beginning of her workbook, the Love Yourself, Heal Your Life workbook that is also required reading for our training. So here we're just going to go through the affirmations. Christy's going to help me with these as well. Every day, my relationship with money becomes healthier. It's a relationship. I am handling my practical, emotional, and spiritual and mental money matters. I am willing to change.
My income is constantly increasing as my expenses stay proportionately the same or less.
I am a money magnet. Isn't that a wonderful thought? I am a
Love
money
that one.
magnet.
All of my needs are met by the universal abundance of spirit.
I choose to embrace thoughts of abundance that nurture and support me. And again, abundance can be not just money, of course, but love, time, health, relationships.
I am confident that I earn a wonderful living, doing work and service that is important to me.
I am easily guided to offer the gifts of my unique talents and abilities in my work. And I just want to say a little more about that, when I was quite young, actually, I was 20 years old, I made a commitment that my life would be about service and helping people learn how to love each other. And I had no idea how that would unfold. And I had a number of jobs in between finding Louise's work and starting to work with her, where at some level it was being of service. I was in the welfare department, I was in a health group that helped disadvantaged groups get better health care access and things like that. And all those prepared me for the work that I did with Louise. So whatever work you're in right now, if it's not your absolute, dream job, you are still being prepared for that job. And one of the things that another mentor of mine said, how you do anything is how you do everything. So do your best in the career, the job that you have now, because that will always lead you to better things.
I welcome an abundance of joy, love, and money into my life.
I believe that money is my friend and I deserve to receive it in abundance.
I am an excellent money manager.
I think that's a really good one to do
Yeah.
over and over again, to really know that you're a good money manager, right?
Yeah.
So we're getting toward the end of our webinar. We will have an opportunity for some more questions if you have any. But we do want to offer you a bonus. We know that many of you on this webinar are on our interest list and you're interested in the Heal Your Life Workshop Leader Training. Our next one is in Orlando, the 14th to the 20th this year. And we'd like to offer you a $600 discount on your full investment. So there's a
That is
deposit.
really good.
Thank you. Yes. There's a deposit that's normally $9.95, but you can reduce it to $5.95 if you use this coupon 2025 ORL for Orlando. And then you'll also get another $200 off your balance, which isn't due until May 2nd. If you haven't read all the details for that particular training program, then go to the healyourlifetraining.com/Florida. And there's all the details there, and especially everything that you receive, because you receive the materials to lead up to 15 different workshops. Our Money and Consciousness one, we use part of that today in this webinar. And you have a study group, the 2-day workshop, and ways that you can use all those materials to lead a number of workshops. Especially if right now you have another practice of some kind, you're a life coach or another alternative practitioner, workshops can help bring people into your practice, so they can get to know you and get to trust you. And those are wonderful. That's how I built my practice, with the combination of workshops and coaching. People came to the workshops, they signed up for coaching. In fact, there's another recent example of this. One of our trainees is in Florida, and she had a group of 28 people come to a recent workshop that she did. And several of those also signed up for her coaching, but also they were so excited they wanted another workshop. So she's doing another workshop in a week or so, and that one has even more people enrolled in it. So people really at this level, not only do they need the prosperity work, but let's really look at, we all want peace, and there's a fair amount of chaos going on right now. I think you might agree, right?
Yeah.
And Louise's work offers the avenue for developing peace and also for loving yourself more so that you can love others more. So we would love to have you at the Workshop Leader Training in Orlando. Please go and look at the details. Christy is also going to be offering a short online workshop that's not a training, but it's
Nope,
another
this is just for you.
it's another fantastic workshop that actually we developed during COVID. And so it's an option that you coming to the training would then be able to offer to people as well online. So Christy, why don't you tell them about that?
Absolutely. But first, will you answer? Somebody asked how much the total is for the training in Orlando.
Okay. With the discount, it's 4,800. And that includes your lodging, double occupancy, most of your meals, all your breakfast, lunches, 2 dinners, all the training materials, but it also includes something that a lot of other programs don't, and that is follow-up afterwards. And
We
I
do really good with that, you
We
guys.
do
Really
really
good.
good because we're really committed to Louise's work and helping people change their lives. In fact, I talked to someone the other day who's signing up for the training, and she said one of her issues with some past stuff that she's done is that at the end of it, you go home and there's no follow-up, or even if you're online, that there's no real follow-up. So we do a lot of follow-up. And let's see, I'm looking if it's on, is it on the chat, the question?
Yeah, it was on the chat.
It's
Yeah.
4,800, but the deposit is the 595, and the rest isn't due until the beginning of May. And we also have a payment plan for that. Okay, so you can do a 2-payment plan, or you can even ask us for something. Okay, somebody is asking for the link, and I think, Christy, if you can find the link for the deposit, you could put that in the chat.
You sure can. Give me 1 second here.
Oh, to check the page. Yeah, put the link for Florida in there.
That's what I'm gonna do.
Okay.
Alrighty, give me 1 second here, and I'm gonna get that up for
Okay,
you.
so the deservability, yes, we can send that again in the email. Absolutely. We send this out.
There you go.
Yeah. Any other
There's that
questions?
link to Florida. Was there any other questions about the training? And before I talk about the workshop that I'm going to be leading, I just wanted to say when Patricia was talking about, whether or not the work you're currently doing is that soul work, and that all the work that you've done has been leading you up to leading the soul work. If what you're looking for is to help people and to help people grow, and you've been looking for a way to include that soul work in your life, the Heal Your Life Workshop Leader Training is a great way to get started on that path. We are really and truly about helping you help others. We get so many people who are like, oh, I've just been looking for a way to share this work, and we have it all set up for you and all ready to go. And we support you in getting out there and sharing the work so that you can help others have this same kind of growth.
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
and that's true. The follow-up that we do, we have a Facebook private page, or WhatsApp is a really popular one these
yeah,
days. There's a getting started series. There's a Zoom calls that are afterwards that we do, not a webinar like this, but actual Zoom meeting. So you can ask questions. And we also do periodic follow-ups for the entire worldwide community on different things that they can do, and offering them new resources to go out
yeah,
and share this work. So you really can be assured that the follow-up, and it's included in the price.
it is. It's included. We are very committed to the work.
Yeah.
Yep. So, the workshop that I'm going to be leading is going to be 6 weeks long. We will be talking about prosperity. There's a whole section on it. And some of it is where you can work on your own. It's through our portal to your own self journey. You log in and you do your own work, and then you come back together with me and the group for an hour at a time, and we go through the work that you worked on for that week. It's a really great experience. It gets you to go a little bit deeper. It also, if you're thinking about taking the training with us, it helps you to see a little bit more of what it is that we do. And it's just a very healing, wonderful, beautiful workshop. It is normally $119 for the 6 week workshop. You have until April 10th, and that will be 99, and we'll send out all the dates. I'm sorry, let me say that again. You have until April 10th to sign up for it to be $99 instead of the 119, and we will send out all of the dates for the workshop in our email.
Absolutely. And one thing that's really incredible with Louise's work is it truly is ongoing. And we actually piloted this 6-week workshop with a lot of our already trained trainees, and they were just thrilled with the
Mm-hmm.
insights that they had and the process for it. They were just really excited. And I know that even Louise, later in her life, she had things she was working on. I know because I was very close to her. And so there's always more where we're peeling those leaves of the artichoke
Artichoke,
to get to even more and more deeply
more
to
and more heart.
absolutely. So thank you all for being on the webinar today, and we trust that our information and our sharing has really enlightened you and given you some ahas to go forward with. You can certainly follow up with us by email. You all got an email for this webinar from Patricia at Heart Inspired, most likely, to sign up for it. We're happy to answer your questions. We would look forward to welcoming any questions about about the training. And I do one-to-one, or Christy does one-to-one talks with you to answer any questions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so yes,
And
we
we'll
will.
send out that Calendly link too.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Okay, go ahead and put that in there. So if you'd like to sign up for a one-to-one, in fact, I have one of those coming up in about 15 minutes. Follow up.
Give me 1 second. I just need to copy and paste it.
And I'll put that in the email that goes out as well with the recording.
There you go. There's the Calendly link if you would like to schedule a meeting.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. Again, thank you all for being on the webinar with us today. We love you. We appreciate you, and we really and truly wish you greater prosperity in your life in every single area. Okay. Have a
Thank you.
wonderful weekend.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.